welcome back to Full House 7th edition, where we are playing Vanheim. It is turn 19. We might be having a capital defense. No, it doesn't look like it. It looks like instead they split out and raided us, which is probably wise. Though we do finish Research and Alteration, level 2. That's for the Earth Meld, which will help us out against the White Centaur, but was maybe a bit of a boondoggle. I don't know how necessary that really is, and we do really want Construction 4, but, you know, it is what it is. 2 throne claims this turn. This looks like an underwater commander. Interesting. Not sure who this is. Does get units like this, but it's unlikely that they went underwater and managed to get a throne. If so, good luck holding on to it. And you can recruit these as independents. Though definitely an interesting choice. And then we have, this looks like TNN, so I guess things went at least decently well for them, although I think the Throne of Beasts was already claimed. So it looks like they're in a similar situation to us, and it's kind of hilarious because the room has been complaining about independent attacks. And I'm pretty sure that they were caused by our claiming of the Throne of Bones, and then TNN's claiming the Throne of Beasts. And of course, the Throne of Bones has now been unclaimed, and it looks like Throne of Beasts, the same thing happened. So buckle up, 70. You're about to get even more attacks. We're bringing in our ogres, wasting our earth gems, doing some site searching, which missed. And then we have our raids. So it looks like Pangea did not move to intercept, probably since they're raiding us in 2 other places. So yeah, they put 6 province defense here. I don't know, we'll see. I mean, this is pretty light as raiding groups go, but herdmen are pretty good and woodsmen are pretty awful. Yeah. We don't love ranged fire as elves, but short bows are also pretty awful. Also, they're shooting at our commander, which is good. The bless actually helps us a bit there because it just makes our normally squishy commanders a little tougher. So against something like a short bow, they're not going to care as much as a normal elf might. So that works out for us just fine, and we kill a harpy, which is nice. That's a scout, yeah, because Pangea, they can do a decent amount of foreign recruiting out of forests, so it is important to get these out of Pangea's hands as quickly as possible, including their own forests. Yeah, I don't know about putting 6 PD against Vanheim, but if they want to keep wasting their money like that, that is fine with us. There is a 0% chance that we lose this, and just hopefully we won't take any casualties. I'm not expecting so. The Van here's chopping quite nicely, as they do. So no casualties, and again, we kill another harpy. That's good. We definitely will want 6 province. I don't know. It's hard to say because we have the same problem where if we put 6 province defense in, White Centaur are going to run that over, no problem. On the other hand, something that Pangea can do that we can't really is put together really cheap groups of like harpies to raid with, in which case like 1 province defense probably won't stop it, but 6 often will. So we'll have to think about that one. And then yeah, we're probably not going to be stopping these raids. 6 province defense, so it looks like more or less everything came with this. Ooh, we have more province here. That's sad. I think this is where our army just was. So I was thinking that potentially we could get hit here. So I did dump a little bit into PD. Horse Tribe are a decent province defense type to dump, but against this White Centaur, forget it. We do at least, kill some harpies. That's nice. But I don't, 4 harpies, not a big deal. Okay, this is Centaur Warriors. So he has some mundane Centaur here. So yeah, this is the same group. So it looks like there's another group. I guess we'll take a look at that. We're also getting hit. So Agartha did choose to move out. This is kind of interesting. Maybe we'll go for their cap. Because, yeah, this is going to be problematic. We're definitely not going to stop this. Not too many Mind Blasters here, though, so that's good news. Quite a few casters, though. This is actually costing them quite a bit of research. Also, some light kitting. The Luck Amulet is cool. I don't know about the Coral Sword. I don't know if these guys need even more hit points. They have quite a bit to begin with. And these guys have Earth Gems, probably eventually for Summon Earth Power. And then one of their more powerful commanders, probably also going to be doing like Legions of Steel, Strength of Giants, normal Earth stuff. Earth Meld, right. That's actually not as important, I think, against us, against Vanheim, because Vanhears don't really rely on defense. But normally, I would say that's an excellent spell against elves. And they have their Pretender back already. That's unfortunate. So they do have their Bless back online, which is This doesn't really matter all that much. They've also brought a Bane in, which is a decent early thug. No kit on that fellow. But yeah, more Mind Blasters in this group. Like, yeah, this is really dangerous. And if Gartha continues to push hard against us, we'll definitely have to redirect our efforts in terms of going after Pangaea's capital to, stopping this push. That said, like, Earth Serpents are pretty dangerous. Yeah, Protection 31 is a bit of a problem for us. So, that is one thing. We have no strength on our Bless for our Vanheers. And most of the time, that's not really going to be a problem because once they Berserk, they're going to get enough of a buff to their strength. They can cut through most stuff. 31 is like right on the edge. I think we'll still be able to do it, but 315 hit points. Luckily, the Earth Serpent, just the one attack, so, we will lose like one Vanheer around, more or less, although it will get spread out with Blood Bond, so actually we may not quite lose one around, but I don't know, 315 hit points, that's a lot. But we do at least Berserk, right, because normally the Earth Serpent just relies on the Fear Aura to cause the enemy to rout. And of course, it's really high protection. That said, we could get Strength of Giants without, we would have to shift our research. Construction 4 would be nice. The other thing is we have Construction 2, so we can do Great Swords of Sharpness. We have Earth Income. We definitely have some solid thugs that can wield it. So even if our Vanheers can't deal with this, we'll have to stop making ogres. But yeah, we can definitely handle this force, but it's enough to be concerning, absolutely. And then speaking of concerning, we're rated again, so we're down a lot of income this turn. Yeah, and this is a place, unfortunately, yeah, it's your tribe. So I didn't invest, but this is exactly the kind of Harpy group that I was talking about, that's 6 province defense, maybe not Deer tribe, although you know what? We do have an elf as our PD commander, and like, yeah. Oh, come on, he routed. Yeah, the armies of Pangaea also routed. I think we're going to win because we have Phantasmal Warriors on the field as well as our Deer tribe. So let's see. Yep, our forces defeated the attack. So maybe we don't have to commit 6 province defense in order to deal with Harpies. Certainly you can see how with 6 PD, even Deer tribe were pretty awful. Like, Harpies are not great. So that is a ray of hope in an otherwise kind of ugly turn. And then it does look like there's a storm in Lanka. And I do not expect Lanka to be able to stop this. They do actually have more than I expected in here. Some of their sacreds, as well as an unkitted thug. And let's see, their pretender as well, who has regeneration, but not very high hit points. No kit either, which is sad. Quite a few mages, but yeah, they're blood mages, and there are no blood slaves here, which is understandable. It's pretty early in the game. Very difficult to get a blood hunting operation going this early. Maybe worth blood hunting your capital a little bit for desperate to like this. Not that it would change the equation, but just as an extra middle finger to the person who's taking you out, since they are going to be interested in your capital. So, ooh boy, okay, we're gonna have to. Even with dual-colored, team-colored squares, yeah, it is Lanka versus Kailasa, right? A bit of a grudge match, so I guess it kind of makes sense that they have similar colors. But yeah, Kailasa not doing a great job getting in the gate quick, although they are sending forward the mercenaries first, which I do approve of, but the mercenaries are not going to be able to handle these sacreds. Who are pretty nasty. Like, yeah, regeneration, I see a lot of Lanka players take regeneration, and they have Blood Vengeance as well. I guess that kind of stacks decently well, because, every time you're dealing damage, or every time the enemy is dealing damage, that's damage coming back, and then you regenerate it back up, so they have to go through the Blood Vengeance again. But with only 28 hit points, I don't know. I have also seen Blood Bond regeneration for Lanka, which feels like maybe better. It is a bit dangerous sending this bull in, although I think he's ethereal. So yeah, normally I would say this is pretty scary because these sacreds are absolutely some sacreds that could kill a bull like this, although I don't think they have magic weapons. Yeah, no magic weapons built in and no magic weapons on the Bless, and this is again another situation. If they had magic weapons on the Bless, I think this Pretender actually might be in trouble. Because the protection's good, but certainly not good enough to deal with these demon sacreds, and also as a trampler, 10 to fatigue down, like no defense skill, gonna be taking a lot of hits. Yeah, they're going to be regenerating in a decent hit point pool, but yeah, do not underestimate these Lankan Sacreds. But no magic weapons, right? So, 75% of the attacks just aren't even going through. You can see it is really struggling to kill them all. And I was maligning Lanka's regeneration pick, but I do think it's helping them out quite a bit against this Trampler. And it actually looks like this is, well, I don't know if it's going to fail, because this guy's a Berserker. Looks like he fell asleep and then woke up and then re-berserked. Because when you fall asleep, you stop berserking, and then that means that since the armies are routed, he's going to try to retreat off, but then if he takes damage, he re-berserks. So I think that's what's happened here. And yeah, so it looks like, I don't know, how many turns do we, we still have a lot of turns left. Lanka does not have a lot left. There's definitely some danger of Lanka just routing due to casualties. Yeah, there goes the Sacreds, and now Lanka's probably screwed. So it does look like Kalos is going to come away with this, but only by the skin of their teeth. And of course, once they get close to the mages, you never know what's going to get cast, but just blood ones, like, not too concerned there. I think he just knocked out Lanka's Pretender. So yeah, I don't think we need to watch the rest of this, although it's not a guarantee, but it could go quite long. So let's see, yeah, Kailasa attacked Lanka but was defeated. So I'm guessing that the bull just wasn't able to, kill Lanka's units quickly enough and reach the automatic rout threshold for the attackers, fell asleep, and then managed to make it off without taking damage. So a bit touch and go for Kailasa. Their Pretender was, I don't think, ever in a ton of danger, but it, could have gone a different direction. They do take a lot of losses, but like these Bandar Light Archers actually are decently pricey. So this is actually a little more painful than I realized. I was thinking that, these guys were relatively cheap, but no, actually they're pretty expensive as mundane troops go. So this is going to be a bit painful to replace, but otherwise these archers are probably mercenaries. These spearmen are mercenaries. They do lose one mage, which hurts, but, for what they took out, like, Lanka doesn't really have a realistic defense left anymore, so they'll be able to go in next turn, and they should be able to this. So I would say a worthwhile trade, but Lanka definitely put up a better capital defense than I was expecting. And then we have a ton of independent attacks. Then, yeah, the dead rise from their graves. Hopefully this is one of the provinces that we lost, not in one of our few remaining provinces. The dead also rise from their graves again. This is a province that I think is ours still currently. People might be getting sacrificed in the woods. Probably just a rumor. Nope, this is one of our remaining provinces. So the dead have taken it. I should not have claimed the Throne of Bones, I think. Not as familiar with the level 1 thrones. Then Calum gets attacked. Wow, this is kind of interesting. By a bunch of werewolves. This almost feels like a misfortune event that they inherited maybe from Archocephaly. They do take some losses. Nothing too significant, but, it always sucks to be losing stuff to other people's independent attacks. And then we get attacked here. Of course, this is where we turned around the Harpy raiding group. So yeah, now our lands are mostly full of undead. So we probably will not be able to march on Pangaea, unfortunately, simply because we need to clean out all of this undead. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll just leave behind a small group to deal with them. It's not going to take that much. So then Pangaea gets attacked in their capital, just by dogs, though. They do have, I think this is just standard province defense. They just get quite a few units, it looks like, because a lot of these are not that great. So yeah, not our best turn ever, but, our capital at least remains unlocked, and I will catch you guys after the jump. All right, this is the situation and what we're doing about it. Things are not looking great. We lost quite a few provinces this turn to a variety of causes. Luckily, most of our undead losses were in areas that we probably weren't going to hold anyhow, so that's a silver lining, I suppose. But we lost a province here to Agartha, we lost a province to Pangaea, and then of course, yeah, the undead attacks. But we're still actually in okay position because we haven't taken any major army losses or anything like that. So we're going to be sending our main force out from the capital. Same kind of stuff that we've seen before, slightly reduced because we are splitting out another Vanheir raiding group, more or less Vanheir. There is some danger that Pangaea doubles back, and then we'll lose those Vanheirs, probably more or less for free. We'll kill some Harpies at least. But I'm banking on Pangaea not really wanting to just double back, right, and kind of do nothing, assuming that I don't raid out. But it's hard to say. So far, I definitely have not managed to predict Pangea's movements, so there's a good chance we're wrong here as well. However, we'll probably just continue moving with our main army. We can see that Pangea has created a bramble fort here, which I believe is a spell, so they can grow forts in forests. And that's not great, right? Like we definitely don't want them to have a fort this close to our territory. On the other hand, right, there's a Pan here who probably was the one that cast the spell. There might be some stealthy units, but like by and large, this is an empty fort, which means that it's, up for the taking. And we just happen to have a group of Vanhears, right, headed home. So we're not too far off. We're going to combine some of our smaller raiding groups here into a larger raiding group, just in case, Pangea is going to send something out. We can hopefully kill whatever it is they try to counter our raiders with. Also sending our small raiding group into this province. Well, in addition to the fact that I don't think this mountain pass is open, it's also right next to their cap circle where there's plenty of white centaur that could come out and kill our raiders. So we'll probably just combine this raiding group with the Vanhears on top of the fort. I don't know. We'll see. We might try to raid out. Like, looks like, we're not the only ones. There's like all kinds of neutral provinces. So the skeletons and the dogs and everything have been going kind of nuts. People have been talking about that in the game chat. So, we're not the only one that's getting hit by these skeletons. Our raiders and even our larger Vanheir group, not a lot of siege strength here, so we're not going to be able to quickly break this fort down. But of course, this army with plenty of ogres in it, it doesn't have a ton of siege strength, but enough to get through an empty fort relatively quickly. Now, of course, this does open up our border with Agartha, right? So we can't, if we take this province and we take this fort, then we can no longer, use Pangea as a diplomatic shield. We will have a legitimate border with Agartha. On the other hand, we're going to be sieging with a ton of our stuff, so Agartha is not going to want to attack into that. And then once we take it, we can leave behind some stuff and, recruit some chaff, basically make it a hassle for them to take the fort. And, from that point, it's like, well, if they raid deeper into our land, they're going to leave behind an untaken fort that, we can mess with them from. We can launch our own raids out of it. So, I mean, it's not ideal, right? We were really hoping to use this as a shield, but we just can't leave a Pangean fort here untaken this close to our borders. And it's probably just as well, right? Because we've talked about how this was held by Calum, so I don't think we can really get through over here without diplomatic issues potentially. So this way we won't have to worry about that too much. Speaking of, there is a bird group here, looks kind of like a raiding group, so a little concerned. Haven't really talked with Calum yet. Obviously, this is not looking good for us. And Calum is quite large and about to be finished with their war, so they might be thinking hey, good time to jump in against Vanheim. On the other hand, right, do they really want to have White Centaur loose and free? So in some ways it's hopefully they just look at it and it's well, good, Vanheim is busy and they're keeping Pangea busy and I can focus on other things. Because they definitely have, is probably their largest neighbor, it looks like. Well, it's hard to say. Certainly their largest border. And is looking, pretty powerful. I believe, yeah, this is their capital down here. So they've done a really good job, taking a lot of provinces. It's kind of looking like Femoria might be in trouble. I'm guessing that these two are fighting, but I don't actually know that yet. Of course, being relatively coastal, is going to have to wonder or worry about, what's going on underwater and potentially being raided by water nations. So that's a potential counterbalance for Calum. But of course, provides a potential counterbalance to Calum for us. I did try to reach out to Ulm. Unfortunately, they are not accepting private messages from strangers, which I understand. So we weren't really able to get in touch with them. I could have brought it to the public chat, but I don't really like doing diplomacy in the public channels. So we're just going to let that run its course. Hopefully, Ulm decides to attack on their own. If they have scouts, which as early age Ulm, you probably should, because you have a lot of stealthy options, they'll be aware that Agartha is engaged, on the other side of their relatively small nation. So it wouldn't be too difficult for Agartha to redeploy. But, Agartha is kind of a rush target in some ways, and EA Ulm definitely wants to attack people early. We saw a large force, so that war may happen even without our help. And I think that more or less covers it. Research-wise, we are still going for construction 4. Yeah, I don't know. Definitely, want to utilize the thugs. I think, it's going to help us a lot in terms of our rating. Whether or not it's worth, trying to get it right now. right? When you're just looking at like raw power, it's pretty hard to argue with Conjuration 5 for those full-sized air elementals, but at this point we're still pretty far off from it, and our research speed is not great, so it's going to be a long time before we get Conjuration 5, whereas Construction 4, like, we're not that far off from, so, I don't know, maybe just should have focused on Conjuration right out the gate. I mean, it's hard, you can't really go wrong with air elementals. I don't know. I also just think it's kind of a boring way to play. So, I'm happy to try out Construction 4. Not that, we will absolutely go Conjuration 5. Like, I'm going to use air elementals, definitely. But just kind of, try to see. It's like, well, do you have to go air elementals first? And, maybe the answer to that question is yes. We will see. So, yeah, I think that more or less covers turn 19. All right, welcome back to Full House 7th edition, where we are playing Vanheim. It is turn 20, and things are not going great. A lot of fighting, so that's pretty expected. We are summoning some ogres in the capital to try to hold up the walls. So this is a good chance that we're going to be under siege soon in the capital. And of course, Pangea has dryads, which means, seduction attempts. Luckily, our Vanheim managed to resist. We'll see if he actually manages. Oh boy, yeah, it's a lot of nature gems. Here comes the swarm. So we are probably screwed. I don't think this guy's leading troops, so that's good at least. But yeah, we're gonna have to, start worrying about this now at this point. We can kit for this somewhat. And the bugs are struggling to hit us. Great Sword of Sharpness is not good anti-bug kit. We took some hits there, and the poison. Oh, we do have poison resistance, right? So yeah, that's not great. But we can, once we get Construction 4 especially, we can at least kit out our army commanders to be much better able to deal with those sort of assassination attempts. Still, that definitely falls in the bad news department. So we may have to do more stealthing. Of course, our ogres and siege chaff are not stealthy. So, we're not going to be able to, we're just going to have to eat seduction attempts on those commanders. But at least for the other forces, they do have the option of stealthing out, which makes assassinating much more difficult. This is our Vanheim raid near our capital, in fact, in our camp circle, as I recall. Still leaving 6 province defense here. Very, very optimistic. So yeah, Vanheims, they're never going to struggle with 6 province defense, so we take that no problem. Looks like we get raided in 2 places. I think this is the 2 places that we just raided back. So yeah, here's a group of Centaur. Looks like they have split. We didn't bother really leaving any province defense, just 1 PD. So it looks like the Harpies probably went to this location, which is the other forest. I think this is the throne. Okay, no. So it looks like they just split out some of their white centaur rather than splitting out only the Harpies, which probably makes sense. And I'm not sure who this group is. It looks like they bump into a raiding force or something from us. So yeah, this is not great. I think we are going to lose here. And unfortunately, our Vanheims get out in front. Well, maybe we won't lose. Vanheims are really scary. We do take a lance charge, it looks like, but that does trigger Blood Bond, which makes our Vanheims very angry. And it looks like the Harpies are on hold and attack rear. We might lose our leadership. Yeah, there goes our leadership. So that is probably it for us, unless there's a PD commander somewhere. No, armies of Vanheim are routed. So it does look like we're going to lose this, but I don't think we're actually going to lose very many units, and we probably will trigger the rout from Pangea. Yeah, and actually, you know what? We're berserking. Yeah, Vanheims are solid. So as long as these guys don't fall asleep, they should manage to get over here and chop up these guys without too much difficulty. Yep, so we actually win that despite losing our commander. Unfortunately, that does strand our Vanheims. And we are losing a decent number of commanders, which is not great. We only have the 2 forts up. We don't have a ton of commanders. Still, right, of course. These were the Vanheims that were being led by the Vanheims that got assassinated. So, I was a little confused. I'm like, what the heck is this Vanheim group? So we were going to have to send guys to collect these guys anyway. But, yeah, this is a pretty good result for us. And I think demonstrates why, we are in a bad position, absolutely. Although I think that more has to do with our really poor expansion. I think, given time, we absolutely will win this war in a 1v1 situation with Pangea. Depending on how hard Agartha comes at us, that could be a different story. We do have a few retreats, probably some of the Vanheims that didn't berserk. And then we have an attack somewhere. This is either our raid or our army. Looks like this is our raid. Oh, it's quite a small raid now, right? Because the other half of the raid were those Vanhears that just, got intercepted by the seduction. Didn't make a move, although it ended up kind of working out for us. And even though these aren't our sacreds, these are still excellent elven troops against, kind of garbage province defense. Although the fact that they get a Minotaur in all of their PD could be a bit dangerous, but yeah, we're able to chop them up. It doesn't take that many elves to be really dangerous. And that raid works out for us pretty well. Yeah, no losses. So we'll probably want to stealth that group out so we don't eat a seduction attempt. And then it looks like there's it looks like Lanka attacks out in their capital. So that's kind of interesting. Or no, this is right because they lost their capital. This is just some random Bandar warrior that they have left. And then, of course, there's quite a bit of stuff. Looks like Kalos chose to patrol here. So I don't think it's going to go well for that lone Bandar commander. It does not. Lanka is pretty much done. And then this must be our main army moving forward, trying to recapture some of our territory. Again, some province defense, but we're not too worried about that. We probably will lose some humans, which is a little sad because we need them to eat lances from Centaur eventually. Yeah, we lose 3 Surf Warriors. At least they didn't retreat because it doesn't take too much before those guys just call it quits. And then it looks like there is a storm in Archocephaly, so this is probably Calum finishing this out. Interesting. They only sent in some elephants. Not sure what happened here. There's a ton of Wind Riders and some mages in here, so this is a pretty serious defense. I guess this is just sort of a mix between, Archocephaly is just trying to see, hey, maybe there's nothing in here, and if there isn't too much, then a couple elephants should be able to trample it. But I don't know, elephants don't love ranged fire, so I don't think this was ever really going to work out, even against an empty fort. And I think the elephants are going to struggle a bit on the walls, but I could be wrong on that. Trampling can be kind of nasty, especially for slingers. But regardless, they get to see what's inside, and I think poking your head in to see what kind of nastiness awaits you is usually a good idea. And it looks like Archocephaly has the chance to make this a relatively painful storm. So we'll see how that goes, and that is good news for us because we want Calum busy. Because we're pretty busy. Speaking of busy, so some dogs mixed with more sinister creatures, and then one of our commanders is getting attacked by a rabid dog. So the independents have just been fierce this game. Luckily, we have Vanhearses, so dogs, not so much of a problem. Dryads with a bunch of gems, that's a problem. One lone rabid dog, that's never really going to kill a Vanhearse. And then here's some dogs attacking one of our provinces, and of course this is where the Vanhears have been stranded. So the Vanheir is really getting exercised here in this province this turn. They're not going to have any trouble with some dogs, so we at least hold on to that province. That is nice. We've been losing a lot of provinces. So and then Calum also gets attacked by some undead this time. So but they have their full army here. This is a chance for us to take a look at it again. It doesn't look like it's changed too much. Good amount of mage support here. This is a strong army, absolutely, and definitely would be a challenge for us to take on, although I think if we combined all of our Vanhears together, I think we have a pretty good chance at winning. So anyway, the birds are not going to struggle with the undead here, though they may lose a few. The birds are not too heavily armored. They only lose 1. That is a pretty good result, and I will catch you guys after the jump. Alright, this is the situation and what we're doing about it. More or less the same stuff that we discussed. We are just going to roll right into this province that has a Dryad. And we're probably going to lose someone, potentially someone important. Most of the people here are important. It would be particularly bad to lose one of our Earth 3s. It would be very sad to lose a Dwarven Smith. Just in general, the Earth 3s are pretty useful. It's probably not strictly necessary that these guys are here. Legions of Steel and Earthmeld are both going to be really nice, but I think we can probably win without them. But at the same time, we're kind of in trouble. We're probably gonna have some other enemies shortly. We do need to win decisively, I think, and I do think these guys are going to help in terms of that. Everybody does at least have bodyguards. Well, okay, everybody that's important. We're not too worried about the humans. And Van Jarls are somewhat tough to assassinate, but, Swarm Dryads, as we saw, we didn't see a Van Jarl, we saw a Van Hers get assassinated, so we definitely need to worry about this, and this is going to be a painful turn or two, especially since we're planning on sitting on top of a fort. Now, we will at least, block any more Dryad recruitment out of this fort. That won't stop Dryads from being recruited, out of Pangaea's capital, but they may want to focus on, their cap-only mages, the Pans. So hopefully by locking down this other fort quickly, we can put a stop to the worst of the Dryad, assassination shenanigans. But it's going to be a painful couple of turns. In relation to trying to reduce that pain a little bit, we are trying to forge some gear. So we're going to make a stone bird. This is not a great answer to swarm raiding, but there aren't a ton of answers, I don't think, at construction 2, and so the stone bird will have the option to repel, and it does get a lot of attacks, and since bugs have basically no hit points, every attack that lands is going to kill a bug. So I think stone birds, while kind of expensive and not a great answer, we'll at least make, we'll probably hand these out to our most important, army commanders, so that, if somebody that's leading a lot of Vanhears around gets assassinated, they will survive that assassination attempt. Also, this explains some of my research switches to myself, because I was reviewing this. It's been a little while. We had a bit of a break, and I saw that I'd moved Conjuration 3 up. I've struggling to figure out why, right? I mean, the obvious thing is lesser air elementals, which would be not completely useless, but largely useless in an army fight, and we don't really need them. And I'm like, what else could we possibly have wanted? You can do Call of the Winds if we really want to bring in a bunch of birds for 10 air gems, which is not great at this moment. But then I remembered that in an assassination battle, right, we can summon in air elementals, and even lesser air elementals will be really handy against a bunch of bugs. So it's going to be 2 turns, before we have that, but hopefully between a little bit of kitting and then handing out air gems, to all of our commanders that can utilize them, we're going to put an end, to this assassinating. There's probably not a ton of Dryads out there yet, so we just need to get rid of the couple that are out there, and then again, hopefully we're going to be shutting down this production. This is our other Vanheir group, so they are returning home, and this is good news, right? Because Pangaea, well, it depends on how closely they've been in touch with Agartha, but they may not realize that, they've kind of only been fighting half of our stuff. And so this will hopefully be a nasty surprise for them. And then, we'll be pretty close by. So even if we eat an assassination here, we'll get most of our stuff on top of this fort. We still don't have a ton of siege strength, so it's not going to be the fastest siege ever. 130 here, and then this is not going to be a lot. It doesn't actually tell us because we're sneaking, but it's not a lot. But still, we'll probably get the crack in 3-ish turns, which again, not great since we're going to be eating assassination attempts, but hopefully we'll at least, kill off some of the assassins. I don't know. We'll see. It's going to be a painful couple of turns. But at the end of it, we will hopefully have another fort. There is the outside possibility that Agartha jumps in to attack us, but I suspect not, because we'll have a ton of Vanhears there, and it's why, they're not going to risk their forces for Pangaea's infrastructure. Otherwise, we do have this stack of White Centaur here. Well, that's stack. It's a motley crew of White Centaur, so 13 of those fellows, and they're going to be able to continue to take provinces, and really the main thing is we need to try to make sure that we don't lose the capital. We are moving some fellows out, so this guy's just going to site search, and we're moving out some reinforcements, so we're hoping that Pangaea chooses to raid here. We've also done a bit of a province defense dump. I mean, a couple guys, really just enough guys to eat the lance charges, and then the Vanhears can do their thing. There is an outside possibility. These guys move pretty fast. They could maybe 2 province move and jump on top of our capital, in which case we'd probably have to split out some of our main army and send it home to combine with this stuff, because I don't quite think this would be enough. We have boosted our province defense in the capital a bit, and we'll probably do more next turn. To help make sure that our capital doesn't get locked down. We are, of course, recruiting maximum Vanhears. We're going to finish our Dwarven Smith next turn. Let's see, I think we're getting a Vanhears here. Yeah, just a few humans. It's more or less what we can afford. We're not getting a ton of money. We definitely have been losing a good amount of territory, as discussed. Someday we will take this silver mine, this great silver mine, back from the undead. I was really hoping for, construction 4. We could just mobilize, like probably if we sent in all these Vanherses. They are priests. Their skills are pretty good. Undead are pretty awful. So probably if we mobilized all these guys and sent them in, they could take this out. Probably. And then the other problem with that is like that's pretty much all of our research gone for like 2 turns. So I don't know, is it worth it to get the Earth Gem and the gold back quicker but lose out on a bunch of research? Yeah, I chose not to. The research is really important. We really want Conjuration 3, right? Because we're going to be getting assassinated a bunch, so it's going to be significantly longer than 2 turns if we send all of our researchers out to deal with that. And then, Construction 4 is going to be really important. I think we're probably just going to have to suck it up until we get Construction 4 and can put together a thug that can deal with all this. I'll maybe have a look at the Construction 2 gear and have a think about, could a Vanherse deal with all this undead at Construction 2? But I don't think so. In a lot of ways, our bless is not a great thug bless. It doesn't really provide them any additional skills, right? It just provides resistances. And against the undead, they don't care about resistances. So anyway, I think that more or less covers it, right? We don't know a ton about world events yet. We have heard rumors that Xibalba is wrapping up. I think they're involved with a Macone situation to the north with some other people. But we do have a non-aggression pact with them, so I think that will hold, but we'll see. Famous last words. The birds have cracked Archocephaly, so they'll probably be headed in this turn. Actually, did they head in this turn? Let me just refresh my memory. Right, they sent the elephants in. So yeah, I imagine they'll go in with everything. I don't recall anything too crazy in there. Also related to capital sieges. Again, Lanka is on the ropes, and I imagine that Kailasa will go in next turn, which could have, both of those could have important repercussions for us. I think Kalum is more likely to become our enemy than Kailasa, but then again, right, because okay, we could work together with Kailasa against a common enemy in Pangaea, but we need to kill somebody, right? We need more territory. So, depending on how much of Pangaea they want, if they just want a little bit of Pangaea, we could probably work with that. But if they want Pangaea's capital, that's probably not going to work for us. So, either of these neighbors could be our next enemy. Both of them could be our next enemy because we're not looking particularly threatening at the moment. So, yeah, I think that more or less covers turn 20.